Alright, so this is the third video of Unit 10. It's the first of our solving videos, so there's going to be two solving videos. This one's going to cover how to solve by cross-multiplying, which is just one rational function on either side. So a fraction equal to a fraction. And the second video is going to cover solving by least common multiple, where we have multiple fractions on one or both sides of the equal sign. So in example 1, we have 2 over x plus 4 equals 3 over x. Now to solve this, we have to think back to middle school. Middle school, we learned something called a proportion. And what we have when we have a proportion is, in order to solve, we cross multiply. So we have 2x. So we multiply diagonally, basically is what cross multiply means. We have 2x times, or equals, sorry. Man, I'm struggling. 2x equals 3, x plus 4. Like that. So cross multiplying, you're multiplying diagonally. So 2 and x are diagonal from each other, so we multiply those together. Then x plus 4 and 3 are diagonal from each other, so we merge those together. So now we need to distribute, because now at this point all I'm doing is solving for x. So to solve for x, I distribute over here, and I get 3x plus 12. So after we cross multiply, this becomes fairly simple. And x equals negative 12. So the first step to solving is cross multiply. After we cross multiply, we have just a normal equation that we have to solve. In this case, it's linear, so it's very simple. Just move x to the other side, and boom, we have x equals negative 12. So our second example is the same idea, but a little more involved. So we cross multiply. So we have 4x equals, and this is why it's a little more involved, 3x plus 4, x minus 3. So here, in order to solve this distribution is a little tougher than what we did last time, but hopefully we're comfortable with it. So we need to distribute, so we get 3x squared minus 9x plus 4x minus 12. And when we combine like terms in the middle here, we get this. Now we have a quadratic. We have x squared. So in order to solve a quadratic, we have two options. We can factor the equation, or we can use a quadratic formula. But before we do that, we need everything on one side of the equation. Or in class sometimes I say we need to be equal to 0. So now we have 3x squared minus 9x minus 12. And we need to try to factor this. So I'm going to move to a different spot. I'll do it up here to not get in the way. So we have 3x squared minus 9x minus 12. A times c is negative 36. So I have 1 and 36, 2 and 18, 3 and 12. 4 and 9 are my factors of a times c, are my factors of 36. And if I'm choosing factors that I can add to 9, I'm going to use 12 and 3. And since 9 is negative, I know that 12 is going to be negative. So after we factor this, we get x minus 4, 3x plus 3. So because we ended up with a quadratic, we had to factor. And after, sorry, someone interrupted me, so I don't know where that sentence ended. But we factored it, so now we have 0 equals, and then my two factors that are in purple over there, x minus 4 and 3x plus 3. So now we factored. Now, remember, don't get lost in all this work that we're doing. We're trying to figure out what x values make this equation true. So now we're at the point where we need to figure out what values of x equals 0 in these two factors. So we take both of these factors individually and we set them equal to 0. So if x equals 4, our equation works. Or if x equals -1, our equation works. Can't really see -1 because of the stupid trial thing. But just to ignore that. That says -1. It's not going to happen very often, but for those that stay tuned till the end and actually listen to the audio, we also need to be careful for restricted domain values. So in this one, remember we can never have 0 in the denominator. So if we solve this out and got 3, if we look back in the original equation, 3 would be a big problem because 3 minus 3 would give me 0 in the denominator of a fraction. So we can do the math and sometimes get an answer that's not going to work. So just double check that the answers that you get as your answer do not fall in the restricted or the x values that aren't allowed. So 4 and -1 are both fine. The only restricted value here is going to be a 3.